For those who have reduced, optimized, and refined their lives, the greatest burden is no longer excess. It is the quiet expectation that peace should have arrived by now. You followed the path correctly. You decluttered your space, simplified your routines, slowed your days. You removed noise, distraction, even desire itself. And yet, something remains unsettled. Not chaos, not craving, but a faint dissatisfaction that feels almost embarrassing to admit. This is the moment few talk about, the stage after discipline, when extreme minimalism no longer feels radical, it feels normal. And normal, it turns out, does not guarantee fulfillment. Today, we examine this overlooked terrain, where nothing feels enough, not because you want more, but because you expected less to finally be sufficient. Stay with me here. This is not a failure of minimalism. It is the beginning of a deeper understanding. At this stage of your journey, the usual advice no longer applies. You already know how to declutter a home. You already understand intentional living, slow living, even the language of mindfulness. Your environment is quieter. Your schedule is lighter. Your spending is deliberate. By all visible measures, extreme minimalism has done its job. And yet, a subtle tension lingers. Not the anxiety of excess, but the discomfort of stillness. What few acknowledge is that extreme minimalism removes external friction faster than it resolves internal momentum. The mind, conditioned for years to chase, optimize, and accumulate, does not immediately learn how to rest. When stimulation disappears, expectation quietly takes its place. This is why some extreme minimalists feel an unexpected dip in mental health. Not because something is wrong, but because something familiar is gone. The background noise that once gave shape to identity has been stripped away. Minimalist living clears space, but it does not automatically tell you what that space is for. This is the hidden crossroads of the minimalist journey, a phase where simplicity no longer feels liberating, it feels unfinished, where freedom exists, but direction does not. Understanding this moment is critical, because many mistake it for failure, when in reality, it is the threshold between removal and meaning. And what you do here determines whether minimalism becomes a lifelong philosophy or a temporary experiment. When people say, "Nothing feels enough," it's often misunderstood as dissatisfaction. But dissatisfaction wants more. What you are experiencing wants clarity. Extreme minimalism does not fail here. It succeeds too efficiently. It removes decisions, distractions, and excess faster than the nervous system can recalibrate. For years, your sense of progress was measured by acquisition, improvement, movement. Even personal growth followed a pattern: more habits, more insights, more optimization. Then minimalism arrives and collapses that structure. Suddenly, there is less to manage, less to chase, less to fix. And the mind, trained to define purpose through motion, encounters a problem it has never faced before: unoccupied awareness. This is where many extreme minimalists quietly panic. Not outwardly, internally. Without clutter, the days feel wide. Without urgency, time feels exposed. Without constant striving, the question emerges: what exactly am I moving toward now? This discomfort is often misdiagnosed as boredom, apathy, or even a loss of motivation. But those labels miss the truth. What you're facing is a transition gap, the space between living reactively and living intentionally. Minimalist philosophy prepares you to remove. It does not automatically teach you how to inhabit the space that remains. And when that space isn't consciously filled with meaning, values, or chosen direction, it doesn't feel peaceful. It feels hollow. This is why nothing feels enough. Not because life lacks content, but because your internal compass hasn't yet been recalibrated for simplicity. Most people retreat at this stage. They reintroduce noise. They mistake relief for stagnation. But this challenge isn't a warning sign. It's an invitation, one that only appears when everything unnecessary is finally gone. Clarity is often sold as the final destination. Declutter the home, simplify the schedule, reduce consumption, and fulfillment will follow. But clarity is not fulfillment. Clarity is exposure. Extreme minimalism removes interference. It sharpens perception. It quiets the noise that once drowned out subtler truths. And that is precisely why it can feel unsettling. When distractions disappear, life no longer hides behind them. What becomes visible at this stage is not emptiness, but unanswered orientation. Minimalist living gives you space, but space is neutral. It amplifies whatever direction already exists, or reveals when none has been chosen. This is the part of the minimalist journey rarely articulated. The moment when mindfulness increases, yet satisfaction does not. When mental clarity expands, yet emotional grounding lags behind. This gap is not a flaw in minimalism. It is a misunderstanding of its role. Clarity does not assign meaning. It only removes the fog. And without deliberate values to anchor that clarity, the mind drifts. It scans for purpose the way it once scanned for possessions, searching for something to justify its attention. This is why some extreme minimalists feel a strange urge to optimize again. More routines, more rules, more refinement. But that instinct is simply the old conditioning resurfacing, trying to convert stillness back into productivity. True minimalist philosophy does not end with reduction. It transitions into selection, not choosing fewer things, but choosing what deserves presence, not filling time, but deciding what is worth engaging deeply. Fulfillment does not arrive automatically once life is decluttered. It emerges when clarity is paired with intention. And this is where extreme minimalism quietly transforms from a lifestyle into a discipline, from an external practice into an internal one, from simple living into purposeful inhabiting of each moment. Those who misunderstand this step believe something is missing. Those who understand it realize something is finally possible. There is a phase in the extreme minimalist journey that rarely makes it into stories. It doesn't photograph well. It doesn't sound impressive. It begins after the last unnecessary item is gone, after the systems are stable, after the finances are calm, the routines efficient, the space ordered. One individual described it not as freedom, but as exposure. Their days were clean and intentional. Their minimalist home reflected discipline and care. They practiced mindfulness, spent less, owned less, needed less. From the outside, it looked like the destination. Internally, something unexpected happened. Without clutter to manage or urgency to respond to, they noticed how often they reached for purpose the way they once reached for possessions. Not to use, but to reassure themselves that something meaningful was happening. There was no crisis, no breakdown, just a persistent sense of being awake without direction. It took time to realize this wasn't dissatisfaction, it was honesty. Extreme minimalism had removed the external scaffolding that once supported identity. The busyness, the constant improvement, the subtle pressure to become something. What remained was presence without narrative. The shift occurred quietly, not by adding goals, not by redefining success, but by learning to stay with moments that offered no reward beyond being lived. Cooking without documenting it, walking without tracking it, thinking without turning it into insight. This was the turning point. Minimalism stopped being a method for control and became a practice of attention. Life no longer needed to feel productive to feel complete. That is when nothing feels enough dissolved. Not because something was added, but because the need for constant confirmation finally loosened its grip. Extreme minimalism is often described as an endpoint, a place where life becomes lighter, clearer, calmer. But what this journey quietly reveals is something more precise. Reducing possessions simplifies the environment. Decluttering the schedule creates time. Intentional living slows the pace. None of these guarantee fulfillment. They only make it visible. When nothing feels enough, it is not a signal to add more or to abandon the path. It is the moment when life stops negotiating for attention and simply waits to be inhabited. This is the stage few prepare for, where simplicity no longer feels new, where mindfulness is no longer effort, where the minimalist lifestyle stops providing feedback. And in that silence, a different kind of sufficiency appears. Not excitement, not certainty, but steadiness. The realization that peace was never meant to arrive as a reward. It was meant to emerge as a capacity to remain present without improvement, to live without needing the moment to justify itself, to experience simple living not as restraint, but as quiet alignment. If this reflection resonated, you're not alone in it. Share your experience in the comments, not as advice, but as recognition. And if you want to continue this exploration, the next video goes deeper into how extreme minimalism reshapes attention, identity, and time itself. Until then, stay with the stillness. It has more to reveal than noise ever did.